Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, if you're anything like us, you are probably just drowning in information these days.
Oh, absolutely.
Your feeds, your bookshelves, even just like the thoughts running through your head,
Yeah.
they're all absolutely stuffed with methods, life hacks, the one simple trick.
Revolutionary techniques.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Promising instant success or optimization or happiness. It feels like we're living in this overwhelming age of fragments.
Yeah, fragments is a good word for it. Bits and pieces.
And we're constantly running on this kind of treadmill of self-improvement, but maybe never quite feeling like we've actually arrived anywhere.
And that feeling, that constant seeking, always needing the next new method,
Hmm.
that's precisely what our sources today really want us to look at. We're
Yeah.
drawing from, ancient philosophers all the way to modern performance coaches.
Quite a range.
Yeah, and they cut through all that noise, that daily chatter with this single, really powerful foundational insight. It's the ultimate shortcut, in a way. It comes from Harrington Emerson, the efficiency expert. He put it beautifully, I think. He said, "As to methods, there may be a million, and then some, but principles are few.
Hmm.
The man who grasps principles can successfully select his own methods. The man who tries methods, ignoring principles, is sure to have trouble."
Wow. Okay, that really is a master key, isn't it? It just clarifies the whole problem so well.
Right.
The methods are infinite. Should I use Pomodoro, intermittent fasting, this specific negotiation script? There's always something new.
Always.
But if you don't get the underlying principle, like the principle of time management or energy management or human motivation, then you're just constantly fiddling with the method itself.
You're troubleshooting the tool, not the task.
Exactly. You're guaranteed to struggle, just like Emerson said.
So our mission today in this deep dive is really to move past those scattered fragments, the daily inspiration, and reveal what we see as 5 underlying integrated principles for meaningful success.
Okay, 5 core principles.
Yeah, we're looking for that coherent blueprint. We're calling it the architecture. And the idea is once you understand this architecture, you can confidently choose your own methods, knowing they're built on, solid ground.
And that's crucial because implementing methods without understanding the principles, well, our sources warn that leads to a really dangerous kind of success, doesn't it?
It does. The kind that feels successful on the outside.
But ends in this profound emptiness on the inside.
Exactly. So let's start laying that foundation. Principle number 1, the priority principle.
Okay.
And to really grasp this, we kind of have to look at what happens when you get your priorities wrong. We need to examine one of history's great paradoxes.
And that takes us straight to King Solomon, right? He's sort of the ultimate cautionary tale here.
He really is. I mean, by almost every single external metric we use today, wealth, fame, status, comfort, power, global influence, Solomon was, well, arguably the absolute pinnacle of success.
Yeah, we need to sit with that for a second.
Yeah.
The sheer scale of it. He wasn't just, like, well off.
No. Legendary wealth. So much gold and silver that silver was apparently considered, common like stones in Jerusalem during his reign.
And his fame.
Drew royalty like the Queen of Sheba from faraway lands just to test his wisdom. He built massive projects, the temple. His diplomatic reach was enormous.
So if success is just about accumulating stuff and reputation.
He won, hands down. He basically defined the idea of having it all.
Yet. There's always a yet, isn't there?
There is. The tragic outcome, and Coach Tony Dungy analyzes this really deeply in one of our sources. Despite achieving everything, Solomon's life, well, it did not end well.
Why?
Precisely because those external pursuits, they ultimately don't satisfy us. He climbed to the absolute peak of that external mountain.
Only to find it hollow.
Yeah, empty.
And the way he described that emptiness himself in Ecclesiastes,
Yeah.
it feels so relevant today, doesn't it? Chasing excessive comfort or power or fortune or just fleeting pleasure.
He called it chasing after the wind. Vanity. Meaningless.
It's not that those things are necessarily bad in themselves.
Right.
It's when they become the ultimate goal.
Exactly. When they become the primary thing you pursue, demanding all your time, your energy, your resources,
Yeah.
they just never deliver that lasting fulfillment they seem to promise.
So how do you fix that? Knowing wealth is empty doesn't magically change your habits.
No, it doesn't. And this is where the core requirement comes in, the shift that's needed. The sources are pretty clear. You have to center your life on something greater, a greater purpose.
Okay.
Now, the source material often frames this in specific religious terms centering on God, the creator. But the universal principle here, the takeaway for everyone, is the need to identify an ultimate concern.
A transcendent meaning, something beyond just the material.
Precisely. You need a true north, something that sits above the day-to-day grind, above just accumulating things or status.
So if your career goals or your financial targets are the absolute highest thing you serve,
Then you're vulnerable. You're basically setting yourself up for that same potential emptiness Solomon found. Because those things, by themselves, aren't designed to provide ultimate meaning.
okay, so you identify this ultimate concern, this true north. What then?
Then, almost automatically, it starts to direct and, maybe more importantly, proportion everything else in your life.
Proportion. How so?
Well, it puts your finances, your health goals, your relationships, your ambitions, it puts them all into the right perspective. They don't vanish, obviously.
Right, you still need them.
You still need them, but they stop being the main thing. They become tools or supports for that greater purpose or mission rather than being the mission itself.
That shift, that realignment, that's the uncommon key the sources talk about.
That's it. Focusing on that greater purpose above all else, and then letting that core priority influence every single daily choice you make.
And the sources are pretty blunt about the connection between choices and results, aren't they?
Very blunt. Everything in your life is a reflection of a choice you have made. If you want a different result, make a different choice. It's stark.
So if you feel that emptiness, that chasing the wind feeling, it's a direct signal that your recent choices hasn't been aligned with the right priorities.
It's feedback, often uncomfortable feedback, but crucial.
And the reward for getting this right, for making that shift, it isn't necessarily more money or more fame, is it?
Interestingly, no. The reward seems to be something more internal. It's the ability to genuinely appreciate the simple, profound blessings that are already there.
Like what?
You know, the beauty of a sunset, the sound of a child laughing, holding a newborn baby. These fundamental, almost primal experiences of life's meaning, they become visible, felt, when our skewed priorities stop blocking our view.
So getting your priorities straight allows you to actually see the good stuff that's already around you.
Exactly. It clears the lens. This principle is absolutely vital. It's step one, because it helps you avoid ending up like Solomon, having everything the world values, but feeling like it was all ultimately meaningless.
Okay, so that gives us the map. The priority principle sets the destination, the true north. But, having the right map is one thing. If you don't have the internal foundation to actually follow the map, you're still stuck.
Precisely. Which brings us directly to principle two, the self-mastery principle.
Okay, internal foundation.
Yeah, this is really about the bedrock of any kind of effective action or influence in the world. And we can anchor this one in a really clear, concise statement from the legendary basketball coach, John Wooden.
What do you say?
He said, "Control of your organization begins with control of yourself. Be disciplined."
Simple. But wow, that packs a punch.
Doesn't it? It makes it crystal clear. Self-mastery isn't some, optional add-on for personal development.
It's the prerequisite.
It's the absolute prerequisite. Before you even think about managing a team or influencing a market or even guiding your own family effectively, you first have to govern your own internal world.
Your thoughts, emotions, reactions, commitments.
All of it. Self-discipline is the bedrock. If that foundation is shaky, it doesn't matter how great the plan is, the whole structure is vulnerable. It'll likely crumble under pressure.
But it's just about, iron-fisted control.
Yeah.
Just forcing yourself.
That's a great question. And no, it's not just about brute force. The sources emphasize balance. True self-mastery needs persistence. Yes, the discipline to execute. But it has to be tempered with inner peace, with self-respect. One source specifically says, appreciate yourself and honor your soul.
Honor your soul. That sounds gentler than be disciplined.
It is, and that balance is critical. It's
Yeah.
what prevents that really harsh self-criticism, the kind that leads to burnout and derails long-term progress.
Right. You can't beat yourself up constantly and expect to keep going.
Exactly. You discipline yourself to act according to your principles, yes, but you also honor yourself to ensure you have the endurance, the psychological resilience to stay the course.
Okay. That makes sense for the long haul.
Yeah.
But I want to push back a bit on this idea of control, especially now. We live in such an analytical world, right?
We do.
We're constantly told to be introspective, track our metrics, analyze our motives, calculate every move. Where's the line? Because the sources warn about overanalyzing too, don't they? There's that parable.
The centipede parable, yes, an excellent point. And that parable is the perfect illustration of the potential danger here.
Remind us how it goes.
Sure. The story goes, a beetle, maybe a bit mischievously, asked a centipede, which leg goes after which?
Uh-oh.
Exactly. The centipede, who had been walking along perfectly fine just moments before, started to think about it, consciously analyze the process,
Yeah.
and, as the story goes, ended up in a ditch, completely paralyzed.
Wow. So the act of analyzing the automatic process destroyed it.
It halted it instantly. The centipede became paralyzed by its own scrutiny.
And that's the danger of overanalysis for us.
Precisely. The paralysis of analysis. We can spend so much time dissecting past choices, mapping out every possible future scenario, scrutinizing every feeling we have.
Trying to get perfect control.
Yes. But the centipede story shows that real self-mastery includes knowing when to stop analyzing and just trust your trained instinct.
Trained instincts. Okay.
You work hard, you use discipline to train the behavior, the skill, the response. But once that instinct is reasonably well developed, the most disciplined choice might actually be to stop thinking so hard and just act. Let the training take over.
So it's like analysis is crucial when you're learning something complex.
Absolutely.
But once you've got it, once it's become somewhat automatic, like giving a presentation you've rehearsed, or handling a crisis you've trained for breaking it down consciously in the moment, might just trip you up.
It can absolutely guarantee you fall into that ditch of paralysis. Your discipline then shifts. It's aimed at creating the right habits and instincts initially.
Okay. And then trusting those habits and instincts when it's time to perform, rather than trying to micromanage them in real time.
So back to Wooden. Control of your organization begins with control of yourself. It means knowing when to apply that conscious discipline to build the habit,
Yes?
and when to trust the instinct that discipline built to execute the habit smoothly.
Exactly. You master yourself so well that you can afford to, in a sense, forget yourself when it's time to act.
Okay, that's a really nuanced take on self-mastery. So let's recap. Principle 1 gives us the right map, the priority. Principle 2 gives us the internal stability and control to actually follow that map, self-mastery.
Right.
Now we need to move from that internal foundation to how we engage with the world, with other people.
Which brings us neatly to Principle 3, the strategic communication principle.
Strategic communication sounds calculated.
It is, admittedly, highly pragmatic. This principle is aimed squarely at influence and, maybe more importantly, at reducing uncertainty in your environment.
How so? The sources define the strategic purpose of communication quite clearly. It's about gaining a degree of control over future events.
Okay, control again. How do you gain control through communication? It's not about shouting louder, I assume.
Definitely not. You gain that control primarily by being able to accurately predict how others are likely to act. And you do that by uncovering their real intentions, their hidden weaknesses, maybe their ulterior motives.
So it's about intelligence gathering, essentially.
Very much so. And this leads us straight into some, well, quite direct advice, particularly from Robert Greene's work. Law 14 is pretty stark.
What's the gist?
Suppress yourself in conversation. Let others talk endlessly.
Suppress yourself. Hold back.
Yes. The goal isn't to impress people with your brilliance or your opinions. It's to use silence and restraint as your most powerful analytical tools.
How does that work?
Well, think about it. When you create a vacuum in conversation, most people feel an urge to fill it.
True. Silence can be uncomfortable.
Very. And in that rush to fill the void, people often reveal things they normally keep guarded. Their plans, their anxieties, what's really driving them, maybe where they feel insecure or vulnerable.
So you learn more by listening than by talking. We've all seen that happen, right?
Yeah.
That meeting where someone just keeps talking and accidentally lays out their whole strategy.
While the quiet person in the corner is just absorbing it all.
Exactly. And the sources get even more specific.
Yeah.
There's a fascinating technique for figuring out if someone might be, well, bending the truth, detailed by the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer.
Okay, how do you spot a lie strategically? My instinct would be to challenge them directly.
And that's the common instinct.
Yeah.
But Schopenhauer advises the exact opposite. He says if you suspect deception, you should look as though you believed every word he said.
Really? Act like you believe the lie. Why would that work?
Because it completely disarms them. Think about it. If they think they've successfully fooled you, they relax. They gain confidence.
Yeah. Schopenhauer argues that this perceived success makes them bolder. They become more vehement in their assertions, wanting to really drive home their apparent victory. they double down.
And in doubling down.
In the end, betray himself. They overplay their hand. They might add contradictory details, or their body language gives them away because they feel overly secure. You essentially let them hang themselves with their own rope of confidence.
That's like intellectual jujitsu.
It really is. Direct confrontation triggers defenses. Apparent belief triggers hubris, which is often far more revealing.
Wow, okay, that definitely elevates listening beyond just being polite. It's a tool for understanding what's really going on.
And the sources point to the French politician Talleyrand as, like, the historical master of this.
Talleyrand, right. He survived pretty much everything, didn't he? The Revolution, Napoleon, the Restoration.
An incredible feat, only possible through an absolute mastery of understanding people and navigating treacherous political waters. And his method was described beautifully by Baron de Vitrolles.
How did he operate?
He specialized in concealing his own thoughts and intentions, often behind what Vitrolles called a transparent veil of insinuations. He'd hint, suggest, but rarely commit overtly.
So he'd get people guessing about him.
Constantly. He only injected his own personality or made direct demands very sparingly, precisely when needed for maximum effect. His primary mode was observation and careful listening.
So his restraint wasn't just silence, it was creating this aura of mystery.
Exactly. It forced others to project their own assumptions onto him while he was busy gathering hard intelligence about them. He created an environment where people felt comfortable, even charmed, into revealing themselves, often through witty conversation. But underneath, he was mapping their desires, their fears, their vulnerabilities. Apparently, he could predict political shifts months ahead based on seemingly casual remarks he'd collected.
That's incredible strategic depth. But okay, if you're practicing all this restraint, this careful listening, what about when you do speak? Those words must carry extra weight.
They absolutely must. And that's the crucial counterpoint here. Dwight Goddard emphasizes this. Whatever words we utter should be chosen with care, for people will hear them and be influenced by them for good or ill.
So silence for intelligence, precision for influence.
That's the balance. You practice strategic silence to understand the world accurately, but when you choose to intervene, you practice meticulous precision because your words become your primary tool for shaping events.
So ultimately, this strategic communication, it's not really about being cold or manipulative, is it? It sounds more like a really focused form of empathy.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's about creating the psychological space and using careful observation to allow others to show you who they truly are, rather than just reacting to the surface. You're trying to understand the human terrain before you make your move.
Gathering the facts before you act.
Okay.
All right, so we've got the map priority, the internal engine and steering, self-mastery, and the ability to read the terrain and other drivers, strategic communication. But none of that matters if the car runs out of gas halfway there. You need fuel. You need persistence.
Absolutely. Which brings us to principle 4, the persistent effort principle.
The long haul.
This is where we move beyond clever strategies or moments of insight and focus on the sheer grind. When people talk about success, they often romanticize the breakthrough, right? The flash of genius, the lucky break.
Yeah, the overnight success that took 10 years.
Exactly. But our sources really ground this principle in the reality of continuous, often unglamorous, humble action. And Michael Jordan's famous quote about failure captures this perfectly.
Which one is that?
He said, "I can accept failure. Everyone fails at something. But I can't accept not trying again."
Okay. That reframes failure completely, doesn't it?
Totally. For the person committed to persistent effort, failure isn't the end point. It's just a temporary setback, a data point, an event on a much longer timeline.
But giving up, not trying again,
Yeah.
that's choosing to make failure the destination.
That's the choice. And that perspective connects directly to a pretty challenging truth about mastery itself that the sources highlight.
What's that?
We're sort of conditioned by society to look for the finish line, aren't we? The 10,000 hours, the specific goal achieved, the moment you get the diploma or the trophy.
Sure, we want to know when we've made it.
But the sources offer this, well, both liberating and kind of daunting reality check. The amount of hours to mastery does not matter. There is no end zone.
No end zone. It's tough to swallow. It means the work never really stops.
It implies that achievement isn't about reaching some peak and then relaxing. It's about embracing the work itself as continuous, basically forever.
So you commit to being the kind of person who keeps working, not just the person who hit one specific target.
That's the identity shift. And if the work is truly continuous, then raw talent or brilliance, while helpful, becomes less important than cultivating the qualities needed for that long-term endurance.
Okay, so what qualities are key for persistence?
The sources emphasize developing the constitution and humbleness to be patient and the fortitude to put in the work.
Constitution, humbleness, patience, fortitude. Let's unpack that. Constitution and fortitude seem like toughness, resilience.
Yeah, the mental and emotional grit to keep showing up day after day, especially when motivation fades or results aren't immediate.
And humbleness and patience. Where do they fit?
They're crucial. Humbleness acknowledges that you don't have all the answers, that the process is long, and that setbacks are not just possible, but guaranteed. It prevents arrogance from blinding you.
And patience allows you to weather those setbacks without quitting.
Exactly. Patience accepts the timeline. It understands that meaningful progress often takes way longer than we'd like. Together, humbleness and patience counteract the frustration and ego-driven impulses that make people give up.
So with this mindset, a setback isn't a disaster. It's just part of the landscape of a very long journey.
It's an expected feature. You learn from it, you adjust, but you keep moving because the journey itself is the point. You embrace the process, knowing you'll likely be doing this work, guided by patience, forever and ever, as one source bluntly puts it.
The journey is the work, and the work is the achievement.
That's the essence of the persistent effort principle. It's non-negotiable for anything truly meaningful because worthwhile things simply take sustained, humble effort over time.
Okay, wow. We've laid out 4 incredibly powerful principles here: priority, self-mastery, strategic communication, and persistent effort. Each one feels essential on its own.
They are, but like building anything complex, the individual components only work if they're connected properly.
Right, a pile of bricks isn't a house.
Exactly. And architecture is defined by how the parts fit together and support each other. Which brings us to our final and perhaps most critical principle, the integration principle.
The capstone, making it all work together.
This is what moves us from just having a list of good ideas to having that coherent, functional blueprint we talked about at the start. Integration means understanding how these first 4 principles must constantly reinforce each other to create success that is both sustained and meaningful.
Not just short-term wins or isolated skills.
Precisely. It's about building something that lasts and that feels worthwhile.
So let's explore what happens when they don't integrate. The sources must highlight failure modes when these are separated, right?
They do, very clearly. It helps illustrate why integration is so vital. For instance, what happens if you have the priorities right, but lack self-discipline? Principle 1 without principle 2.
Oh, I know this one. That's good intentions, right? You know what matters: health, family, your purpose.
Your values are spot on.
But without the self-mastery, the internal governance, those values just stay theoretical. Your actual daily choices get driven by impulse or distraction or seeking comfort.
And the result? Guilt, frustration, stagnation. Your actions constantly betray your stated priorities.
Okay, painful but true. What about the reverse, in a way? Someone who's incredibly disciplined, has principle 2 down pat, but lacks strategic communication. Self-mastery without principle 3.
This person is often highly effective, maybe even admired for their focus and work ethic. They wake up early, they meet deadlines, they execute flawlessly on their own tasks.
Sounds pretty good.
It can be, but it leads to isolated effort that can be dangerously naive about human nature. If you're disciplined, but you fail to strategically understand the intentions, the fears, the motivations of people around you, competitors, collaborators, even partners.
Your hard work might be undermined, or you might be working hard on the wrong thing.
Exactly. Your efforts might be subtly sabotaged or completely misdirected because you haven't read the room or understood the underlying dynamics. You're operating efficiently, perhaps, but in a social vacuum. You become easy to outmaneuver because you haven't mastered the human terrain.
Right. You're a powerful engine, but blindfolded. Okay, next disconnect. What about strategic communication being great at reading people and influencing them, but without persistent effort? Principle 3 without principle 4.
This is the profile of the charmer, the manipulator, the person who's brilliant in the short term. They can talk their way into anything, persuade people, maybe uncover secrets to get a quick win, close a deal fast.
Although effective initially.
Initially, yes, but without the follow-through, without the persistent effort, the reliability, the fortitude to actually deliver consistently and stay engaged, that influence is fleeting.
It evaporates. People see through it eventually.
It's a trick, ultimately, and tricks might win a battle, but they don't build lasting trust. deep relationships, or sustainable success. Lasting influence requires substance and consistency over time.
Okay, and the last one. This feels like the most dangerous, maybe. Persistent effort without the right priorities. Principle 4 without Principle 1. Running hard in the wrong direction.
This brings us right back to the beginning, doesn't it? The Solomon trap. This is, in many ways, the highest form of wasted efficiency. You have the discipline, the fortitude, the work ethic. You can do the work forever and ever. You are incredibly persistent.
They're getting things done.
Lots of things done. But if all that incredible energy, all that effort, isn't guided by a meaningful ultimate purpose, the true north established by Principle 1, what happens?
You achieve the goals you set. The wealth, the status, whatever it was.
You arrive at the destination you aimed for, only to find it's hollow, empty, meaningless. You become the efficient, empty king, the successful person who feels like a failure inside.
That's chilling. So the integration is what prevents all these potential catastrophes.
It is, and the sources tie this all together beautifully with the definition of real excellence from David Starr Jordan.
What did he say?
He stated quite simply, there is no real excellence in all this world which can be separated from right living.
Right living, meaning alignment.
Exactly. Real, true, lasting excellence isn't just about external achievement. It happens when your outward actions, driven by that persistent effort, P4, and informed by strategic communication, P3, are in perfect alignment with your internal state, your self-mastery, P2, and your core values and purpose, P1.
The whole architecture has to be sound, internally and externally aligned.
When the principles are unified, working together, not fighting each other, that's when the structure stands strong and leads to fulfillment.
So this whole framework, this architecture, it suggests that all these wisdom traditions, ancient and modern, they aren't really offering us brand new methods.
No, because as Emerson pointed out, there are already a million methods out there.
They're pointing us back to the foundational principles that make any method you choose actually effective, sustainable, and crucially meaningful.
Understanding that integration, how they all work together, that's where the real power to transform your approach lies.
Okay, fantastic. Let's quickly recap this blueprint, this architecture we've built today. The 5 timeless principles for purposeful living.
Right. First, the priority principle. Know your ultimate concern, center your life on that greater purpose. That provides the why and prevents the Solomon trap of empty success.
Second, the self-mastery principle. Govern your internal world discipline balanced with self-compassion as the absolute foundation for any external effectiveness. And know when not to overanalyze, avoiding the centipede's ditch.
Third, the strategic communication principle. Master the art of listening and observation. Suppress yourself to let others reveal their true intentions. Use silence and probing techniques, like Schopenhauer's, to gain understanding and control. Choose your own words with precision.
Fourth, the persistent effort principle. Embrace the reality that mastery has no end zone. Cultivate the constitution, humbleness, patience, and fortitude for the long haul. See failure as temporary feedback, not a final destination. Commit to the work itself.
And finally, fifth, the integration principle, the capstone. Understand that these 4 principles aren't separate tactics. They must be woven together, constantly reinforcing each other to achieve that real excellence where your actions align with your deepest values and purpose.
The knowledge itself, as we've kind of said, it's maybe the easier part. The real empowerment here from these sources seems to be this. The power is in the choices you make daily, grounded in these core principles.
Right. Instead of constantly chasing the next shiny new method or hack.
You grasp the principle,
Yeah.
and then you select or adapt a method that fits your situation, knowing it's built on solid ground.
That really is the path forward outlined here. But we have to be honest, right? This path leads to a final, perhaps the most difficult choice.
Okay.
We know the phrase, if we want different results, we must make different choices. And we know Principle 4 demands hard work that work forever and ever. It's not easy.
No, persistence rarely is.
So here's the final thought, the provocative question we want to leave you with today. The choice, at the end of the day, maybe isn't just between success and failure. Maybe it's between 2 types of work.
What are the 2 sides?
There's the difficult, demanding, but ultimately fulfilling work, the persistent effort guided by these integrated, meaningful principles. That's one path.
Okay, yeah.
And the other?
There's the retreat to the comfortable path.
Yeah.
The easier path, maybe. The path of chasing fragmented methods, quick fixes. The path that feels like progress, but like Solomon found, ultimately amounts to little more than chasing after the wind. It leads towards emptiness, even if it looks successful for a while.
So the fulfilling hard work versus the comfortable emptiness.
Which kind of work, which path are you willing to commit to starting today?
That's the choice.
Thank you for joining us on The Deep Dive.
We'll catch you next time.